Hello there, people. I am here. Sorry, it's been taking me a minute to do videos, but I am back, and today I am gonna be reviewing the second part of the Jurassic franchise, The Lost World, which came out in 1997. So 4 years after the original. It was based off the book, which came out in '95. So this is one of my favorites. I love the first one, but this one I love the grittiness. It's not gritty, but it's up there. Like, just it's very like dark. I like the fact that they're off the island is now there's no fences and stuff, and I just it's a fun movie. I think um so I remember watching this movie. This is another one I watched early on as a kid. I had toys from it. We have the Return of Ian Malcolm. I know in one of the original scripts they wanted to get Sam Neill to come back and be Alan Grant for like one scene, but I don't know if he it was because he didn't want to do it. I don't remember, but anyway, sorry about that. I was thinking about some, but so this film opens up with this family which is on the island. This little girl runs off, and we see compies, which, she thinks are like cute little dinosaurs, and then she feeds them, and then more show up, and then they attack her, which was off screen, and then her mom sees it. This is a cool sequence. I wish they showed it, but this film has a lot of deleted scenes. So then we see Ian Malcolm, who gets on a train, or yeah, it's a train, and one guy recognizes him. They have a little conversation, and that was that. Then he goes to the house of John Hammond, who's like bedridden. We meet his nephew Ludlow, who seems like he's planning something. Um, oh, we also get a little callback to the kids who are a bit older than Ludlow, and Ian Malcolm have a conversation where Ludlow basically he's covering up the incident from '93. So then we see Hammond, and then Hammond tells him about Site B. Um, this is the only time in this movie that I will spoil this. The original ending, I think one of the endings was they were gonna have Ian and his daughter visit, go to Hammond's grave because he dies in this movie, but they cut it for some reason. There's this film. It doesn't have like behind the scenes problem, but there's a lot of scenes they cut out, which I'll get to one of them later, like the way they leave the island originally, or way they originally ended the film. So I'll get to that. But he tells them about Site B, that he wants to set a group to show what dinosaurs can do, but Ian Malcolm turned it down. Yeah, the board wants to exploit the dinosaurs, and he wants to see them as a deterrent because he knows basically it's implying he knows what Ludlow's planning, which he wants to take the dinosaurs off the island. Sorry if I'm looking at something. I'm kind of looking just because I don't want to just be like a lot. So I'm just looking at something which kind of has the movie, even though I know most of this movie. It's just so he declines his offer. He also talks about the team: Eddie Carr, um, Nick Van Owen, which is played by Vince Vaughn, which that was one of those things. I remember being surprised, like Vince Vaughn. Um, and then Sarah Harding, which is Ian's girlfriend, played by Julianne Moore, and he turns it down, and then um, Hammond tells him that she went already, and then basically he says it's become a rescue mission. The music in this movie is another thing. The state really explored and added to the soundtrack of Jurassic Park, because that original had such a great score. But I'm not gonna say it topped it, but the adventure, the main theme of this movie is very adventure sounding, like, and ominous too. Though it's like, so this is where we meet Eddie Carr. They're at a garage where we see like the vehicles we see in the movie, like the Mercedes Benz, the trailer. We also meet Nick Van Owen, who poses as like a photographer, but in reality he's part of like some environmental animal group. Um, so they talk about basically what's gonna happen on the island. Then we meet his daughter, Kelly, who I'm assuming is adopted. They don't go into detail, but well, and he tells Kelly that she can't come along, and then he walks away, and they basically get ready to leave. Unknowingly, she stows away. She basically stows away with them, you know. So they go to Costa Rica, and then they get dropped off. You have a little scene on the boat, but there's not really much to the scene. And then they find her bag, and they scream her name. They're on the island now. And then they find her. She's taking a picture of a stegosauruses. They see a family of them, and this is where we get it starts off with oohs and ahs, and then there's running and screaming, which they say in the trailer. Um, while Nick's taking a picture, here's another one, and it's Sarah, and then Sarah like sees a baby stegosaurus, and then I think she takes a picture or something happens. The adults kind of chase her off for a little bit, and then she hides under like a log. You know, they kind of were just defending her baby, and that happens, and they go to the RV, and this is where we find out Kelly stowed away because they saw smoke, and she accidentally, I guess, burnt dinner. Ian kind of chastises his daughter, and then tries basically convince his wife to come back, but his wife, I don't know if she's his wife or his girlfriend, but yeah, Sarah's like, no, I want to go on my own. Then we see a bunch of engine copters, and it turns out it's Ludlow, who hired basically a bunch of hunters because he wants to take the dinosaurs off the island. This sequence where the hunters are chasing the dinosaurs is actually really good. And because we get to see dinosaurs we didn't really get to see a lot. That's the other thing I really love about this movie. The amount of dinosaurs we get to see, especially being a kid when I was watching this. We get not just one T-Rex, we get two. It's like, oh, we get more than two raptors. Or no, I guess it was three. More than three raptors. Um, we have like a whole herd of like, Pachycephalosaurus, which is the one with the thing on its head that is like a ram. And then I can't really say the name, Parasol, which has the thing, the crest off its head. So we saw a bunch of dinosaurs, them hunting it down. We also meet Roland Tembo, who's an experienced hunter. He basically, his only purpose is he wants to hunt the buck tyrannosaur. So you get a few sequences of them taking down dinosaurs and like capturing them. Then Ian, Malcolm, and is watching it. And then Ludlow, has like a satellite, and he's showing like some of the what his plan is. He wants to build a park in San Diego. Real, we know how this wouldn't work. It's way too small. It's too small for that because he's trying to save InGen because the InGen is on the verge of bankruptcy after the incident in the first movie. So I really like that they really have built upon the events of the first movie in this film. And so he tries to showcase this while Sarah and the group are watching them, are watching Roland, and they find out what they're doing. So this is where Nick admits he's part of like some animal rights group. So him and Sarah let out the dinosaurs. They let out like a Triceratops, a Stegosaurus, and then a Pachy. And then basically, yeah, they all run out and cause mayhem and destroy the hunters' base camp, which destroyed a lot of the technology. So, and after this, Nick ends up picking up a baby T Rex because, oh, I didn't mention this scene. Before Roland Tembo sees a Tyrannosaur footprint, so him and his partner basically go hunt. They capture the baby T Rex. Nick lets it out. Nick decides, we gotta take it back to RV and heal it up. And they do that unknowingly. While they did that, they brought it in. Ian's trying to tell them this is a bad idea, but then Kelly's scared, so they decide to go on the high with Eddie Carr. So while this is happening, they're taking care of the baby Rex, and then the Rexes roar. They're basically looking for their baby. Yeah, hold on. So while that happens, they not Nick, Ian tries to call them on like there's a phone on the high, and they're not answering because they're too busy with the baby Rex trying to repair its injured leg. So Ian has to go. He goes into he goes back into the RV, and he's like, and then he says something, and this is one of my favorite sequences in the movie. The Rexes arrive, and my God, I remember it's not. I'll say this. It's not as great as let's say the scene in the first movie, but just the fact that two of them show up and then they're just roaring, and then they're just quiet. You got the rain. Actually, even before that, you just see like a fucking that Mercedes we see just flip and just crash through. It's just like that was a cool entrance, and it turns out the Rexes want their baby back. So we have a little bit of a square off. It's very short. They return the infant, and then it turns out they think everything's cool, and then they start flipping the RV and trying to push it off the cliff. This is a really cool sequence. Even when like Sarah falls on the glass, she's not gonna die, but when the glass slowly starts cracking, it's just like okay. And then Eddie has to come. Eddie comes and rescues them. He tries to use his Jeep, which has like a hook on it, and it tries to pull the RV. It seems like Eddie tries to save him, and then probably my favorite death scene, which I will eventually do a video. Probably when we get closer to being done with the franchise, I'll do like my favorite kills of Jurassic Park, the Jurassic Park franchise. Um, this is my number one. When you just it's just pulling, and then this just music plays, and then the Rexes show up, and then like, and even the sound it makes, and then when he looks on his right, you have a Rex there, and then he looks on the other side of Rexes. I'm like, you're fucked. That's like that scene really gets me because, and it sucks too because he's such a good character. He's trying to help his friends, and then they basically the other one bites the roof off, bite the I think they bite the door off. The other one snaps at him, and then basically his neck gun or tranquilizer gun is stuck on something, and yeah, he gets grabbed, and then the other Rex feeds it to him, and he gets split in half. My favorite kill. It's so just the brutality of it, but it's not just the brutality. It's also like 'cause he's such a good character. You don't want to see him die, but this is Jurassic Park. These are animals, you know. Animals don't care if you're good or bad. That's why, like, I hate like. Granted, this is from Jurassic World, which we'll get to, but people complained about the one scene with the mosasaur, with the girl, because it was too drawn out and she's not a bad person. I'm like, these are animals, you motherfuckers. Animals don't care if you're good or not. They just look at you as food. And also, like I said, if you they just had it to where only hunters died, it's not realistic, and that just shows more what you want to happen to them, not whatever. But that's a side point. But just that whole sequence is fucking great. So while that happens, the car flies off the thing. So does the RV. But Ian and Nick and Sarah are holding onto a rope, so it flies through. And when they climb up, they get rescued by Roland Tembo and his group. And then basically they have to work together because their communications have been destroyed. So they get into a little spat. Nick and I think the character's name is Dieter Stark, who gets killed by the compies later in the film. They get into a little fight. Then it gets broken up, and then basically they gotta go because the Rexes will trail them, and the spot they want to go to is where Velociraptors are. And basically, they set off to the interior of the island so they can go to the communications center. I think that's where they were going. And then they stop somewhere for a little bit. I will agree. The one criticism I have for the film, and it's not criticism, it's other people have. This one, it doesn't bother me. Sarah Harding was kind of dumb at points, like the leaving the jacket on with the baby Rex blood on it. You should have got rid of that as soon as if you had known, especially they were going to come back. And I will agree with that. But I've always said this: Jurassic Park in general has always had dumb human characters. That's all of them. Like we said in the first movie, you had Lexi who had the light on in the Rex scene. So it's just humans do dumb shit in these movies. And to be fair, it gets to a level. But so when they stop, Dieter Stark goes to the bathroom, and then he sees a compy, tries to fuck with it. Then a bunch more show up and basically kill him. This little scene was really good. Um, but yeah, so yeah, Dieter Stark dies. This is pretty. You don't see him die, but you hear the bites and then the blood just yeah. Then they set off again. Then they rest, and then I think this was the female Rex that showed up at the camp, and but so the female Rex shows up. Hold on, let me see how long I've been filming first. Okay, so the female Rex shows up, chases them. We also see the buck, and it turns out Nick, because Roland has a shotgun, and he was gonna use it, and then it turns out Nick took the bullet, so he had to use a tranquilizer, and he tranquilizes the buck. Then the Rex chases them into a cave. The one guy with the red hair, who's like a kind of like he knew about dinosaurs, gets eaten, which was a cool little scene. A little, I love the little callbacks to Jaws, like in the water when he grabs him, and then they do this a few times in this movie. The scene with Nick Dieter Stark, and then this, where the water gets red. Like it's a little call. I mean, Spielberg directed this movie, so it's me a little callback to Jaws. And so then they go into the long grass. Even trying to remember, I don't remember his name, but he's Dieter's main hunting buddy. Was even saying, "Don't go into the long grass." This whole sequence, the Raptors just taking these dudes down through the long grass was so fucking good. Even though it was really short, but yeah, they take him down and then they kill a few people. Then the Malcolm, Kelly, Sarah, and Nick basically have to make their way down to the facility by themselves. They make it through the long grass, but then Malcolm, I think, ends up getting hurt in like the slide. So they find the facility. They said Nick to make the call, so Nick shows up. We get a little callback to the because you have like this mural which shows the original community center from the first movie or the visitor center. Sorry. Then he calls in a radio, but Malcolm, Kelly, and Nick are walking through the facility. Then Raptors show up, which, by the way, I gotta say this is my favorite Raptor design of the franchise. I love the orange with the like the tiger stripes. I call them the tiger stripe Raptors. And yeah, so Ian sends one off of Sarah, then Sarah and Kelly run into like I'm assuming it's like a some kind of this they run. I guess it's the same facility. So they run into the facility and try to board off the other Raptors, but one of them makes it through. Ian gets into a truck and is trying to fend off one other Raptor, and the Raptor's basically breaking into the glass. The music's pretty good during this, so Ian makes a run for it, and then they all climb up the facility. This one part is kind of cringe, where Kelly does the like the gymnastics and kicks the Raptor out of the thing. She should have just kicked the Raptor out of the thing. The whole twirling was a bit much, but it doesn't ruin the movie for me. It's like 2 seconds. It's 2 seconds, but and then she did not just this twirling. Then she's like, "Hey, you," and then the Raptor. Okay, that's a bit much, but it's one scene. So Sarah ends up climbing to the roof to chase off the Raptor because she got one under her and one on top of her. Then she uses the tiles to escape, and basically the Raptor fell on the other one, and they start biting at each other. Sarah, Kelly, Ian, and Nick make a run for it because the helicopter showed up. So originally, this is where the movie was gonna end because the original ending was they were gonna get into a helicopter, and I think there was supposed to be like a motorcycle scene too, where there's gonna be a motorcycle chase with the Raptor. Then they get into the helicopter, and then the helicopter gets attacked by pterosaurs. That was gonna be the original ending. Then Spielberg didn't feel like that was as grandiose as the original ending, so this is where we get the San Diego scene. So, Sarah, Ian see the Rex being transported. We see Roland one last time, and basically, I don't want to work at the company of death. And so now there's a press conference talking about what's going to happen at the San Diego Zoo. So the ship crashes into the dock because it turns out the crew members were eaten by the Rex. This has been explained that it was the Rex got out and killed everything. They just didn't show like a long shot, and some guy tried to close the cage. Oh, the cargo hold like. And then I do love this sequence. A lot of people hate this sequence because it's too Godzilla-y, I've heard. I'm like, this was a way to show what InGen was up to the public. Because the public didn't know about the first Jurassic Park. There was only a few people saw that. So this was a way to show the world knew about it. So the Rex breaks out of its cargo hold, chases people off, and then it basically proceeds to go into San Diego. I love this sequence. And then one of the transport crew explains that they filled it with drugs because it was dying. Because it stopped breathing, so they gave it an extra drug, and basically it's a local. It's been described basically as a locomotive. You have a scene of it walking into a San Diego neighborhood where this kid sees. I love this scene just because you could put yourself in that scene. Imagine one day you wake up one night, you wake up in the middle of the night and you just see a T Rex, which is it's the buck. I always thought when I was younger it was a female, but it was the buck that went into because the buck is the one with the green um, paint job, but the scene with the kid was so good because it just you put yourself in that. Just imagine looking outside your window and you just see a T Rex staring at you. He wakes up his parents. The T Rex eats a dog. They don't show it, but it's implied because he drops the doghouse, roars at them when they take a picture. Granted, and there's a cutout scene because there's like a shot, like a picture where the Rex actually his head goes through the wall to scare the family. They just cut it, but because there's like a picture of the Rex's head through the wall as like a from the set, but they just I either cut it, they just never shot it, but they that was built. So then the Rex starts causing wreaking havoc in the middle of San Diego. While this, Ian and Sarah have to rescue the baby, so they get the baby. Then the Rex hears the baby. The Rex chases them back to the dock. They put the baby back in the cargo hold, and Ludlow, and then they jump in the water. And Ludlow goes down there and tries to get the baby, but then the big one comes back, bites Ludlow, lets the baby eat him. It's a cool little scene. Then Sarah tranquilizes the buck, and then they close, and it goes back to the island. And then we see them sleeping, and we see a quick, I don't know if the interview is an old interview, but basically says we need to leave them alone. John Hammond saying we need to leave them to their natural habitat, and the film ends with the shot of the dinosaurs on Isla Sorna. I love this film. 10 out of 10. This and the first one to me are up there. Like just how great the soundtrack, the character, but yeah, just all around such a just a great movie. I love the grittiness. Besides the main Rex from the first movie and the Jurassic World movies, the Buck from this film is my favorite Rex. I just love the Rex family in general. They up the violence, the amount of dinosaurs. Ian Malcolm is like a much different character in this movie, and I think it works. And Ludlow's a decent bad guy because he just wants to save the company. So you kind not necessarily you get what he wants to do, but it's just he wants to save the company. At the end of the day, that's all he wants to do. But he's not. He doesn't understand taking down. This was never gonna work. How a T Rex could not fit in San Diego, and then you want to add other dinosaurs too, and like I've never been there, but I'm pretty sure the San Diego Zoo ain't that big to fit. Like, yeah, it just was never gonna work. But I love this movie, and Roland Tembo was a great character. I wish we got a bit more of him, but I don't get the hate for this movie. There are people who think Jurassic Park 3 is a better movie than you're tripping. This is easily up there with the first movie. And Eddie Carr's death is pretty sad, but it's also in terms of violence, it's the Rex splitting him in half. But you feel bad for him because he's trying to save his friends. And people saying this movie didn't have likable characters. I heavily disagree. I think I liked some of the characters. I didn't like everybody. I think definitely there was some. I will agree. I think Nick Van Owen kind of does get people killed if we're thinking about it. But yeah. But other than that, guys, just wanted to get that done. Later tonight for Christmas, I'm gonna review Silent Night, Deadly Night, and then tomorrow I will start Friday the 13th. So yeah. But other than that, guys, I'll talk to you guys next time. Peace.